Buenas and half a day. Thank you all for being here. The Committee on Education, Self-Determination, and Historic Preservation, Infrastructure, Border Safety, Federal and Foreign Affairs, and Maritime Transportation will now convene this roundtable hearing. Today is Thursday, August 26, 2021, and it is currently 17:30 in the evening. For the record, in accordance with the Open Government Law, public notices were sent out via email to all senators, stakeholders, and all main media broadcasting outlets on Wednesday, August 18, 2021, and the second notice on Tuesday, August 24, 2021. Notice of today's hearing was also available on the Guam Legislature's website. Joining me today, I have Senator Shelton. Thank you, Senator, for being here, and then we'll go around the table and introduce everyone. I've called for this roundtable hearing to discuss Guam's bicycle safety lane infrastructure. This hearing will serve as a continuation of last week's roundtable hearing, which was conducted on August 17, 2021. To serve as a recap from last week's roundtable's hearing, we will provide discussions on the following: primary bike lane routes, rights of way, times of day, possibilities to look into the law to prioritize for bicyclists, safety requirements, and also just a general discussion on how important it is to mitigate some of the risks that our community face while biking. And so I'd like to introduce the Director of DPW, Mr. Vince Arreola. Thank you, Director, for being here.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And again, for the record, my name is Vince Arreola, Director at the Department of Public Works. Good to be here.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and really making this one of your priorities. So we're very grateful to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And then I'll pass it off to Eric.
Thank you, Senator. Eric Tidinko from the Guam Cycling Federation.
Paige Butler, board member for the Guam Cycling Federation.
Jesse Pangaduan, member of Guam Cycling Federation.
Conrad Kalma, also GCF member.
Mark Milano, also a Guam Cycling Federation member.
Luis Santos, a member also of the GCF.
John Kim, member of Guam Cycling Federation.
Chris Hartnett, member of the Guam Cycling Federation.
Lyndon Kobayashi, acting chief engineer for DPW.
And Alvin Samaros, GCF member also.
All right, thank you all for being here. You know, we know that there has been a recent uptick in bicyclists going out on the road, especially as a result of the pandemic. We see more families going out there and bringing their young children. So I thank you all for being here and being stakeholders actively in trying to ensure that our roads are safe for these bicyclists. And the last time we met Mr. Arreola, we asked for perhaps some do-outs that you would be able to provide, and that was some of the routes in question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, what we have here with our chief engineer here, he's brought a couple maps. One of the maps shows they actually did some road work, as I mentioned from the previous hearing, that we included in our 2030 Guam Transportation Master Plan. And it basically showed it's island-wide where the roads are, what roads have sidewalks, what roads have shoulders, and what roads just have roads. That's it. Lyndon, you want to? Okay. Yeah, you want to go ahead and start with your presentation? Okay.
Can you please upload? Oh, there we go.
So, as a follow-up to the last hearing, we were tasked with gathering more data, to try and come up with a plan to better accommodate bicycles, in addition to what's already being incorporated. Next slide, please. So with this presentation, the agenda is, we want to kind of recap on some of the action items from the last meeting. Like Vince said, the two maps I have here, and I can leave this with you folks so you guys can have it. Is that we looked at where there is existing facilities already today. So like Vince mentioned, where there's paved shoulders already today, And also too, the second map includes, thank you. It includes, already planned facilities that are already in the works for projects that are, some funded, some just still designed already, in addition to kind of what we're trying to accommodate right now. And then also too, we want to kind of go over kind of the thought process to, how do we get to a master plan, a bike master plan, getting feedback from stakeholders and something that, fits the needs for all bike users, not just some, but for all, right? So we're going to kind of go over those planning needs for accommodation of bike facilities, and then talk a little bit about, why it's important to go through a thorough planning process to make sure that, we do it once, do it right? And then talk about kind of the next steps. Next slide, please. So in our last hearing, where we left off, we talked about trying to identify some of the available bike facilities. So we talked about where there's paved shoulders, also too where we're planning to already put them right now on projects already programmed as part of the 2030 master plan, and also as part of the four-year GTP. We were tasked with looking up some traffic numbers. That was kind of a daunting task because we didn't really know what route. So we're kind of in that process of gathering data. Haven't yet analyzed it, but there's a lot of data. There's a lot of feedback that's still needed. I think last meeting there was only a couple members from the GCF, so I'm glad to see there's a bunch more. We're going to need that feedback to make sure that we can come up with a solution that's best for all. We were tasked with looking up accident data. We found a little bit, but that took a little bit of time.
Right, and we solicited some additional information from GPD. We have yet to receive that, but we know it's forthcoming. So I'm sure they have data on that. We also solicited from GFD in terms of ambulance support and things of that nature. So hopefully, we receive some information from both those entities.
And the last one is how do we additionally propose planned bike facilities in addition to what we already have incorporated in our planning. So and that's why we're kind of here today. Next slide, please. So this map here, like I talked about, it shows in pink existing sidewalks that are there today, and in red those are existing areas where there's existing paved shoulders. So what that shows is areas where basically there's paved shoulders and there is facilities for bike accommodation. Where it's possible, basically where the real estate of the roadway already incorporates it in some form. Notwithstanding, some maintenance or some minor alterations to fully bring it to that point, but roads that have the potential, basically. So in the blow-up areas, you can see that top box in the top left corner. That's a central area where you can see Route 14, which is Chelan San Antonio, as well as Route 14B. So quite a bit of sidewalk in that centralized business district area, and quite a bit of paved shoulders. It appears that Route 1, Route 8, quite a bit of the routes we talked about last week that seem to be desirable routes have paved shoulders. So there's some potential opportunities for maybe maintenance, making sure they're clean, smooth. Riding surface is a big concern, so things like that. Sweeping it right. So next slide, please. So that's the existing bus facilities that we know of.
Can I ask a question, Lyndon?
Yes.
When you say existing bike facilities, what does that mean? I mean, does that mean that, what qualifies for that? Is that just because there's arrows painted? Is sidewalks considered a bicycle facility?
Sidewalks are not desirable due to conflicts with pedestrian, but what I'm saying is that there are roads that have the infrastructure in place. Some of it may need some modification to fully bring it to that point. Like you said, you brought up the sharrows or the striping, or some might need some maintenance, like removing the vegetation, smoothing it out, sweeping it, cleaning it, and so forth. But basically, for the most part, the backbone of the infrastructure is kind of there. So that was the intent of identifying it, right? What do we generally have? And as we get more data and feedback and we overlay it with, some of the preferences from different stakeholders, as well as, looking at safety areas, connectivity, parking, land use planning and stuff like that, we can actually align it. So this is kind of part of that planning process.
Yeah. And I think also the maps there also designate some areas where that just need improvement on the shoulders. Like I mentioned, sweeping, of some grading. If there's like a drainage system there, we're going to have to find a way to work around it. So those are the kinds of, we believe they can be used as the shoulder can be used as a bike lane and can be designated as that. We just have to make sure there's enough space. We've seen some shoulders go from anywhere from 5 to 6 feet, which I believe is plain. I'm not a cyclist. That's what we're here for. You folks kind of help us out. There was one thing I looked at, and they said, I think it was less than, I think they were recommending a meter. A meter to me that's kind of narrow. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing we're looking at. The possibility's there. The pavement is there. The shoulder is there. So that's I don't know, 60-70% of the work already. Short of cleaning it up, designating it, painting, and things of that nature, and putting up signs, of course.
Okay. So this map shown here is the already planned facilities. So like we mentioned in our last hearing, DPW has a number of projects that are a few that are under bid or under procurement for construction that incorporate bike paved shoulders or shared use lanes. So those show up on this map in, I think it's yellow or green. I can't see from there, but that map is the second one. Basically, that'll show projects that are in our GTIP. So those projects are Route 17, Route 5, Route 14, Route 14B, Teadsden Parkway Phase 2, and Route 10A.
Yeah, please note that I think the clear majority of these, right, Lyndon, in terms of the design phase, that they're basically complete. So, we did take into account bike lanes on the clear majority of them, if not all of them. All of them, right, I believe?
Yeah. Anytime we do a widening project, since we're already widening it, for road capacity, we always consider, the alternative modes of transportation, pedestrian mobility, as well as bicycle accommodations. So we always, that's, if you're going to widen it and you need land, or you're going to widen it for any purpose, you always want to consider that as an ultimate configuration. So those are projects where we're considering widening them.
Is there plans for Route 15? That's back road, Anderson?
Right, back road, yeah. At this point, there are no plans for Route 15, although, in terms of that new medical facility that may go up, the governor's looking to place in that area, in addition to, I wasn't too comfortable with how the new GPA and GWA offices were set up there, and the access, that's still kind of tricky. And then we have some housing developments out there, so clearly Route 15, we know way up north we're doing some safety accommodations and safety improvements, but that's really more in terms of signage for the intersections. But in terms of road improvement and road widening, we're going to have to get that into the transportation plan. Go ahead, Linda.
Okay. So that's basically it for the already planned bike facilities. Next slide, please. So in gathering, we're basically in the process of gathering, data collection, gathering data, getting it in a format to where we can use it and incorporate that data in an overall plan. So what we're using is the AASHTO guide for the development of bicycle facilities, and just some of the considerations, so everyone can see, of things that we're considering when we do decide, what roads, will we put bike facilities on. You can see that TV died. You could see some of them, like safety. Safeties are the utmost important. So that's something we want to consider, hence the accident data we're looking for. And I understand some of you have some stories and you know, also, you know, accommodating all users, all users, right? So whether it be novice riders or elite riders we talked about last time, or, you know, even children, right? We're not gonna encourage a bike facility on a road where it's not safe for children, right? So we want to make sure we can do something, you know, using taxpayer dollars that accommodate all users. So, so the skill level of users, the directness of the route, you know, depending on the type and use, you know, our understanding is, you know, bike riders don't like to stop because you stop, go, right? It takes more energy, right? So we want to consider that when we look at these routes. We also want to consider accessibility. Is there places to park? You know, where are you originating from? Where are you ending at, right? So those are things we want to consider as well. We also want to consider personal safety and security. You know, a lot of times if you're, you know, and this is really mainly geared towards things like trails, things like that, right? So if we're going to encourage bike use in certain areas, we want to make sure that it's safe, right? And if it's a very isolated rural area, you know, from our last session, I know you guys talked about, you guys like to bike real early because it's hot, right? We want to make sure it's safe, right? If you have a trail that's designated and you're out there at 4 or 5 in the morning and you're out there by yourself, right, it could not be safe. So we want to make sure that that's also accounted for as well. Let's see here, road function. So, you know, roads have different functional classifications. You know, Route 1 is a principal arterial, whereas you have other roads that are collectors. They just, the purpose of the road's different. So as far as the use of bikes, we want to make sure that it kind of matches for the most part. And also look at connectivity. You know, we want to make sure, you guys mentioned before that, you know, sometimes you want to take different routes and explore different things. So those are things we want to consider also as well. Traffic volume, vehicle mix, you know, speeds, right? Speeds may be a big factor. Those are things too as well.
Yes, Senator, one of the things we wanted to do in our traffic counts, you know, I think the latest we had, Lyndon, was 2018, which is still pretty good, you know, but we'd like to get them updated, especially if we're looking at designating certain travel hours for bicycles, you know, the outer lanes. We kind of talked about that at the last meeting, perhaps on Saturdays and Sundays from, we're going to have to work that out, 5 to 7, 5 to 9, I don't know. The traffic counts and the traffic volumes will kind of tell us what's the most safe, what's the most reasonable time to designate, and so that's not a full yes right now. We got to look at the numbers, but we'll do them along most, if not all, the major routes. Like I was telling Lyndon today, I'd like to do at least 3 along Marine Drive, one in the Dedido area, one in Tamuning, and one perhaps in Agani, if not in Igua, and just see, and because the traffic counter has it by hour. So we'll be able to see what those traffic counts are, say like from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Saturdays and Sundays. I mean, clearly I think you folks will agree with me. We're certainly not going to, we can't, it'd be pretty difficult to do it, you know, 6 to 8 a.m. in the morning and from Monday to Friday, right? And the same thing in the evenings. But, you know, if we can do something for you folks, definitely on the weekends, especially along Marine Drive, that's my biggest concern. Yeah, because that Marine Drive is all we have. It's not going to get any wider. It's not going to get any narrower. But if we can designate bike lanes during the weekends during certain hours, that'd be great. So the traffic counts and the traffic volumes will tell us, you know, and hopefully guide us as to when we should designate the bicycle lanes.
So, Director, first off, I applaud you guys for thinking like that. I think that's a really great idea. How is that going to be executed? I mean, is it going to be a physical separation from the middle lane and the inside lane for?
Yeah, basically, we're going to be looking at both outside lanes, right, throughout Marine Drive. And there's a number of ways we could do that, you know, and a lot of it is going to require education. Because I'm sure you folks will agree with me. I'm the first to admit we got some of the crummiest drivers on Guam. They don't pay attention. They're not trained well. They're not courteous. They're not aware of traffic and you know, proper etiquette, proper protocol, and things like that, right? Most of all, safety. So when you got to deal with something like that, education is going to be paramount here. And then on top of that, we might look at certain striping, to assist with that. Education, public awareness, that's going to have to be really key because, the law is the law. It says bicycles share the lane with the cars and vice versa, right? But we just have to be safe about it because, you're a bicyclist and you're basically unprotected and you're going up against a 4,000-pound car. Yeah, so when you put those combinations together, we have to be, safety is number one on the list. And, we can talk about it, how we can make it work, for everybody involved. Go ahead, Lynn.
Okay. And, there's a long list of this. I'm not going to go over all of them, but, we talked, things like pavement surface conditions. Those are things you want to consider. We're not going to go and make, the worst condition road and designate that a bike route, right? This wouldn't be usable. So things like that, as well as, as intersection and conflict points. Intersections are one of the most dangerous places because you have crossing vehicles, as well as driveways as well. So, if we're gonna encourage people if we're gonna call it a bike route, we don't want to encourage, depending on type of user, something that could be potentially be unsafe. So those are some of the considerations that we're trying right now. We're trying to gather the data to be able to formalize what is the best approach. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to kind of spend a moment talking about, why is it important to plan this? And like we mentioned before, we want to make sure we do it right and that we come up with a solution that fits the need for, for almost all bike riders, not just elite, not just a novice, not just the mountain bikers, right, like we talked about, but for all. And, it's going to take data gathering, and it's going to take feedback from stakeholders. It's going to take analyzing. So really, and also too, how do we, if we plan it right, we can overlay it and we can kind of coordinate with our master plan for transportation. So that's the reason why it's so important for us to go through this process. It takes a little bit of time, but in the long run, it'll probably go faster and it'll save money. Next slide, please. So what are the next steps? So for us, we need to continue gathering data, getting feedback from the community, as well as the Guam Cycling Federation and other stakeholders, so that we can better refine. We want to understand, what are some of the desirable routes already today. Even some of the concerns as well are useful. And from our end, there's information on safety that we need to look at, as well as what level of effort DPW needs to be able to effectuate this. And we need a little bit more comprehensive planning study to be able to do so. So we can kind of compile all that. The way I like to put it is put it all in a meat grinder, grind it, and then it spits you out a plan. Here's the desired routes. Here's how much it costs. Here's how we can program it. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much for that presentation. And so I guess for the next steps, right, where they are asking for community feedback. So I know you guys have some things that you'd like to propose, and so we can go ahead and discuss that.
Thank you, Lyndon. Thank you, Director Ariola, and thank you, Senator. As I was mentioning to you prior to the start of the meeting, you tasked me and some of my fellow GCF board members to kind of go back and kind of think about what if we had to prioritize the implementation and the construction and installation of bike lanes. We don't have an unlimited amount of money to deal with, so what would those priorities be? And in talking to my Cycling Federation board members, we looked at, and based on Director Ariola's his statement that really there's no room to expand out of Route 1 because there's really no more space left on that section from GRMC down to Adelup. So I think as a priority, if we were going to do that, and if the space is available to install bike lanes, I would say Route 4, 8, and 10 would be priorities. That actually forms a nice little 10-mile loop if people start riding from Agana Shopping Center, so I think it could be really advantageous to beginning riders if they feel safe to kind of do that loop. These are just ideas. And like I said, I think there's a section, I'm not quite sure if there is area to expand, but on Route 1 from East Sengsong Road up to Anderson Gate, is there available area there on both sides, north and south? And then I spoke again, and you had kind of already answered that question, but I want to, for the record, say that Route 15, back road to Anderson, I think is a nice road for a lot of cyclists who are doing their long rides will utilize that area. I do frequently. One lane in each direction, you know. To be honest with you, I actually have a little bit more comfort in that because I think when automobiles are behind me on that, they're a little bit more willing to wait and pass me, which is really strange because even on Route 1, that's where I've gotten the most aggressive attitude from drivers when they have other lanes to choose from. It doesn't make sense, but Route 15 is another one. But in the priority area, as I said, 4, 8, and 10 would be ideal. Does anybody else have any?
Yes, actually, yes, I agree with Mr. Eric. Yes, the one going to Anderson, it is a good route to be riding, but again, the road it needs to be repaired.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we spend so much on our bikes, and we end up just walking the rest of the ride because we get punctured.
Vince, that section from that section off of Route 3 where Potts Junction is, up to
Route 9?
Anderson Gate, oh my gosh,
Route 9,
man.
yes.
There's a section there that is just,
Right.
it'll take you out.
It's either way. It's either you're going north or
Right.
south.
Yeah.
Both side is just it's not
Understand.
even rideable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually looking to pave that.
Oh, great.
Why and how DOD paid for the upgrade of Route 3 and then stopped at Potts Junction, which begins and goes all the way to the military base, Anderson, just, I'm beyond comprehension of that one. I don't know who made the decision there, so. Actually, part of it, Senator and gentlemen, there's, I believe, 2 areas of that Route 9, that one section from Potts to Anderson Gate. There's 2 areas there that are actually, the road is actually on private property. Yeah, yes, private property. I met one of the owners about a couple weeks ago. And so, you know, the good thing about her is she's looking to sell it. If we could just sell it so she can fence her house up and we're gone. But we need to talk to the others. But so those are already in the works so that we can get that thing paved. But you know that's the I believe that's probably the overriding reason why, because when the federal government, when Federal Highway or DOD paves roads, it's got to be 100% owned by the government. So you know if you still have ownership issues or easement issues. That could delay a project or just stop a project. So that's probably why it stopped right there, because there are ownership issues within Route 9.
One more area I want to mention is from the double lane section. It's off of Route 1, but it starts, I want to say, maybe PD, in the PD area, extends all the way down to Naval Station. People fly on that road. I mean, it's routine to see people going 60, 70 miles on that road, and we're on the outside lane. And so that has been the site of some accidents and some fatalities. I don't know if that bike is still there, but do you remember the bike, the ghost bike that was there? Yeah. So I'm not quite sure what can be done if there's space, who has purview over that road. But yeah, that would be another section that cyclists routinely use because a lot of them go into the port area, and it's actually really safe there. But if they want to extend their route, they'll go down to, they'll go down to the Big Navy Gate and turn around and stuff just to extend it, but I'm not quite sure. It seems like there's a lot of room on the side, so I'm not quite sure. I mean, that would be probably an easy one if there is the ability to expand that. It seems like there's a lot of room on the sides. Thank you.
So as an alternate to Route 1, starting up there at the Micronesia Mall and going up all the way past the Alapong Beach Club area, is that we could, also utilize the routes through Tumon instead of having to travel down Marine Drive. Now, there's already existing bike routes and signage down there. It just needs to be refreshed a little bit, because that would be your alternate to go around.
Yes, I believe going down through Tumon, the hotel area, that had designated bike lanes within the thing. But I think if we just limit it, Tumon might be a little bit better, especially now, right? Unfortunately, yeah, it's very slow. But because I'm there Sunday morning by 6:30, and they're lucky if you see 5 cars at a time. So it's pretty open there.
Yeah,
so
that's the nice part too, is the speed limit's 25 on that road too. So
Come again?
The speed limit, posted speed limit in Tumon's 25.
25, I believe.
Yeah, so, it's a slower speed than, the 35 on Marine Drive. So people will be doing 50 on Marine Drive and at least only doing 35 in Tumon. So another thought on routes is, instead of making actual bike lanes, I think you might have discussed making like a bike trail. So I believe on the back road, isn't there like a power line there where they've either buried the power line or have a power line? But anyway, I've seen other communities in the States where they've actually made paved surfaces, trails, specific for bicycles in those areas, because it's far from traffic, there's no cars, and it was less expensive to just put a asphalted path down instead of having to make it roadworthy for automobiles at the same time.
Right. I think the good part about Route 15 is there's a lot of space there. I have to imagine, I'll double check that, Lyndon, the easement on that. I'm almost positive that's a 60-foot easement, if not larger. It's large. So, we'll look at the traffic counts, the traffic patterns, expected traffic, depending on what's constructed there. Because if you put up a medical complex there, the Guam Memorial Hospital today, at any given time, has 600 cars, and that's just employees, service providers. That's not including ancillary service, delivery trucks, visitors, people who are just going to the hospital for business, paying their bills, things of that nature. And then of course you have the lab and so on and so forth. So that could really bring up the traffic. So that's some of the stuff we're doing already. Is we're going to do traffic counts along Chala and Governor Carlos, Route 30, right? Yeah, we're going to do traffic counts just to see who's going to the hospital, how many are going to the hospital. That'll give us an idea of what to expect up there.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to recommend is I brought it up before also about potential allowing the use of some sidewalks for bicycles, because it is illegal now for bicycles to ride on the sidewalk. But also, I was also going to throw something out as like maybe strengthen some penalties for those that are hitting bicyclists. I mean, as we mentioned before too, we're able to do public awareness through social medias. We can produce a video to help with that, put it on Facebook, and share it through Instagram, whatnot. Maybe get it on some of the public radio stations, But also, my point was to make it a little bit more stern for a penalty, because, like you said, when a 4,000-pound vehicle hits a bicyclist, the car always wins. So.
Conversely, also, I mean, I absolutely advocate for that, but we also, as a community, I know that we all know that there are certain cyclists, maybe they're new, but we need to do our part So the penalties need to also be severe for cyclists who don't obey the rules, and we're happy to help in enforcing that because we know it goes two ways. You know, the more that we respect the rules of the road, then the more vehicles and motorists are going to respect us. And so at the same time as, yes, we want to make sure that the penalties for people who intentionally harm a cyclist are severe, we also want to make sure that we hold accountable members of our community that are flagrantly abusing the privilege of being on the road or the right to be on the road. So we want to make sure that that point is taken and on the record that that's what we advocate for as well.
Appreciate that. I was just mentioning to the chairperson that one of the things that we have to look at in terms of driver safety or rider safety is what is coming out of and what's the curriculum that's being taught at these driver education companies. I have no idea what they're teaching. All I know personally is the drivers that they're cranking out are not good.
Director, if I may, that's a great idea, and maybe we can work in conjunction with the Department of Motor Vehicles so that every new driver and in the education process, because every new driver has to undergo the driving school, right?
Well, we have to include something like
We
that
have to.
in a written test and perhaps a driving test.
Yes.
Yeah, what do you do when you see a bicyclist on the road? Yeah, you push them off or, things of that nature. Yeah, but clearly we need the part of the education program has to include these driver education schools. Right?
So just adding to what Paige was saying, so although we are considered a vehicle on the road, when it comes to accidents and fines against inattentive drivers, there's a double standard. There's a standard for other vehicles when you cause an accident. When it comes to bicyclists, it's really severely under, I guess, enforced, and the penalties. So I like to make that point. One question I do have for you, though, if we were to propose temporary lanes on a weekend, what would that look like? I think if it's just stripes and perhaps signage, I'm not too sure that would be enough. There may be visibility, that there's going to be cones that would show to drivers that is an exclusive lane for all of us. I think visibility is key because we already have visibility with lights, and we already have visibility with a large group of cyclists, and that still is not enough. I think just adding more visibility, more cones, perhaps, that might be a little bit of a helpful solution.
Yeah, well, it's a proposal. We'll have to talk about the logistics involved, and the safety factors, things like, my thought process there was similar to what's the lanes they have in when there's more than 2 or 3 people in a car and the carpool lane. Yeah, and a carpool lane, it says carpool lane. There's certain arrows. I believe they're even double lined. Things like that. And then, of course, there's the good old penalty. If you're by yourself and you're found in a carpool lane, I know in California, the penalty is super high.
It is.
So, we're all humans, right? So it's a cause and effect thing. We got to make sure that we make these humans behave a certain way, and that's what we do. We hit them with a penalty. If they're in the bike lane, short of just turning right into a business. But we can talk about that, because that's the first thing that came up. What are we going to do? Put cones from GRMC all the way down to Adelup? Holy smokes, we'd lose half of them on the first day.
Yeah.
People are going to use them for their roosters.
Yeah.
Hope I didn't insult anyone. Sometimes my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we will. If you folk can help us out with that, think about how. Again, keeping in mind that we want to keep you bicyclists, cyclists, and of course the drivers on the road. We want to keep everybody safe.
Yeah. Thank you, Director.
Good evening. Can I also add into the conversation here? Hi, so good evening, senators and directors. My brain's all over the place, just absorbing everything that went in, and I guess hearing all the plans is very exciting. But the first thing, the common thing that I'm listening to here is that educating is going to be very important, no matter what we do. I understand that there's a process for all these plans that are in place. It's not going to happen overnight. may not happen in a month or two, may even take a year from now for everything to come to fruition. So right now, I believe, and hearing what everybody's saying, educating everybody is very important right now about what we want out there. Since the pandemic, there's been a lot of cyclists out there. We have done our fair share of educating them as well. I know a couple of friends and I have made some stickers to go ahead and educate the general public, but that's just, it wasn't, we feel that it wasn't enough, but at least we got the message out there. So the common thing I'm getting from everybody's testimony and statements here is that educating everybody can start now. I understand everything we're talking about, the infrastructure, that will take time. I know we can't exactly say when this is going to happen, but I believe educating can start now. Ms. Nelson, good afternoon, good evening, Ms. Nelson.
Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Can you just introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, my name is Christian Ong, and I'm from the village of Chalampago.
Yes.
And just also listening to everybody's testimony here, all the cyclists that we have out there on the road, it's great. It's a sport that has grown within a year. So it's great that everybody's coming to the table. And I brought my children with me here today because I'm thinking also, cycling is one of the few things that I can do together with my child. It's actually very limited right now. If I were to take my kids out in certain areas, I'd say no. But if we plan ahead and think smart, maybe we can bring the little ones out there to some of the areas that right now we'll say, no, we're not going to bring our kid there right now. Mountain biking on the trails is probably one of the options we have with the kids, but it's great to see more of the children out on the bike lanes, on wherever it's accessible. And again, educating everybody about the rules, the laws, and expectations, we can actually start that now. So that's just my 2 cents. Okay. I'm also an educator as well. So I always say educating everybody is free. We can start up, we don't have to wait for anything. We can start educating everyone, and we can put things into place as well, updating some curriculums, updating some laws. That's a good start. Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Okay. Chris Harnett with GCF. Oh, that's better. Can you hear me? Okay. Chris Harnett with GCF. And in regards to education, I did have one question. Forgive me if this is a little bit redundant. I just got to the island, so I'm still learning. But are there any possible way that we can set up like a running commercial promoting or just giving like basic fundamentals on bike safety? Because I know when I just came from the States, and without fail, there will always be some kind of a commercial saying, hey, share the road, or, bikes are vehicles as well, like some kind of promotion. So I was wondering, do we have that here?
Sure. Thank you. Very good question. I was just going to mention after Christian, after his comments, that we've engaged the Office of Highway Safety within the Department of Public Works. Office of Highway Safety is run by I think it's a $1.2 billion grant from the federal government. They've been on Guam. We've been operating for a long time. They do mostly educational stuff, such as the Click It or Ticket program, buckle your seat belts, children in proper carriers. They assist GPD with the DUI checkpoints. We purchase the radars for them, things of that nature. So they've been engaged with this to assist with the public relations, the outreach, the education, things of that nature. So they're already on it. I think one is headed to a conference sometime in September. So we'll see what he or she can bring back. And again, when it comes to public outreach, the clear majority of the radio stations and our TV stations are able to run these as well. So, it's just a matter, we'll work with what works here. Share the road, that kind of stuff. There's already a lot of boilerplate stuff that's already in the pipeline. We just take it and adapt it to Guam, and I'm sure it's going to work. Because it's been proven throughout the states, right? But yeah, absolutely. We've got the Office of Highway Safety engaged. Thank you.
Yes, actually, I also want to add I think for now, the best way we can have right now is to have more presence on the police during our ride, because most of the time, most of us ride as early as 4 o'clock in the morning. And of course, we all know bars right now are starting to open, and they do close at 2 o'clock in the morning. So most of the accident that we have is before 6. And that's when everyone's just getting out of maybe work, they did work, or they're just half asleep or just drunk, you know. And that's most of the accident that we have is the hit and run. And you know, if we can have the patrols during those time, then maybe they can actually slow down or at least stay home instead of just driving.
Right. That's some of the information we're waiting from GPD. You know, what are their accident rates? Where are the accident rates? What times? You know, especially throughout Marine Drive. That's going to be my biggest fear, is designating a certain time during the weekends and the lanes itself. So I need to be crystal clear on what time the accidents are typically, at least in terms of history, right? What kind of assessments we can do with the historical data that we have, and we can interpret it and figure out a way to open the lanes, if at all, so that everyone is safe.
I'd like to point out that Mark is a victim of recent hit and run. Like what, 6 weeks ago?
Okay.
Yeah, I was hit about 2 months ago, and you know, and what it was is just a hit and run, and you know, we wanted to get this guy, whoever was driving, but the thing was, we tried to put it out on social media, everything. I had a lot of people posting it all up, and as of right now, I have no response from GPD of what's going on with that kind of case.
I know one of the things that, I'm a YouTuber. I just like watching YouTube, but I know a lot of motorcyclists, they wear that what is it, GoPro or something? Yeah, everyone's got a camera. So, you know, that's something, again, we can talk about. I don't know if you folks, but nobody escapes from that. I mean, you see just about everything. So, again, that's something we could throw out on the table here.
Is there anyone else on that?
Just one more thing, and just to reiterate again what we mentioned last meeting about the potential for the mountain bike community also in developing, you know, more trails. So. I don't do road.
Okay.
So I want to thank everyone for coming and giving your input. We were able, Mr. Director, to ensure an amendment in this Budget Act that we're currently in session for to
Yes, we saw that. Thank you.
Thank you. So
Are they aware?
I don't know, but we were able, with the help of my colleagues, of course, it's not done alone, but the legislature fully supports that funding be prioritized for bike lanes. And so we inputted that into our Budget Act. And so we put $2 million aside just to prioritize the road improvements and the bike lanes. And so I'd like to offer any comments or questions from Senator Shelton if she has any.
Sure, thank you very much, Senator Nelson, and to DPW and to the cyclists here today. I really appreciate all the information that you've offered here, the suggestions, the dialogue to help us move forward on this. I know, just as Senator Nelson has heard from many constituents pushing bicycle safety, I've heard them too in my office, especially through the Committee on Recreation and the Advancement of Youth. So we've heard those concerns as well, and so I'm happy to be here to listen and help support this endeavor. And I was thankful to Senator Nelson as well for the amendment that we heard yesterday or the day before in our budget hearing, and hopefully we can find additional resources. There are a lot of ideas on the table, I think, that are going to need a lot of funding, and so we want to do everything we can to look for those resources to support this cause. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, but the work doesn't stop here, right? So we have to have an end product. And so would you like to
Yes, if I may, Madam Chair. We will go back again to the drawing table if I can coordinate it with your office. As I offered earlier, work sessions. We can do that at DPW face to face. We just lay things out on the table. We'll have an action item list and work it from there. But you know, we've got a lot of deliverables, but a lot of it is also information. You know, such as traffic counts, traffic accidents, things of that nature. We've got to talk about penalties. We talked about education. We'll bring Office of Highway Safety in. So there's a lot of variables that we want to bring in. And then as Lyndon talked about, he talked about those different issues regarding a bicycle accommodation plan. And so all of those have to be taken into account as well. But good working with you folks.
When do you anticipate having that first work session?
I'm sorry?
When do you anticipate having that first work session with some of the cycling community?
I think if we skip next week, give us a time to gather as much as we can, and probably the week after. Yeah, and then we'll just we'll try to figure out what's best for all. You know, I'm okay if you guys want to do something after work. You know, no Bud Light because it's a government office, but we can do that later, all right? You're gonna love working with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Director, for really allowing the community to meet with you and engage in this. And thank you for all the stakeholders to come out, because I think that when we start working together in these work sessions, we'll come up with something tangible. So we'll be reaching out and scheduling something for 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks. Okay, great. And so we will just recess, and maybe we'll come back in like a month, right, to see what we came forward and what we can do here at the legislature to implement this plan. And maybe, Director, we can do it in phases, right? So, you know, if it takes a while for you to build a road, maybe we can start painting and putting up signage, you know, the minimal cost first, and then continue to, and part of the education, and then continue to move forward in that. If we can like phase it out, if it would take us to get somewhere quicker. Correct. Okay, great, very good. Okay, so thank you everyone for coming, taking the time out of your day. It is roughly 18:25 in the evening, and we will adjourn this roundtable hearing. Thank you very much. Good night, and God bless you.